So what's important for all the folks that kind of check out our channel is to understand what human excellence looks like, whether it's a business owner, whether it's a corporate executive, an entrepreneur, whether it's an influencer, entrepreneur, or a professional athlete. Like I have with me here, Michael Chandler. What's up, brother?
How are you?
Thanks
for
you,
having
man?
me. I'm doing great, man.
The legendary Michael Chandler, who has a major fight coming up in November, as his career is being, advanced into a whole other stratosphere than ever has been before.
Yep.
What does all that feel like right now in the month of, where are we, May, 5 months out to prepare for that moment? And then what does it look like afterwards?
I think about where it all started too. I think thinking about where it started helps you stay in the present moment, knowing that all the hard work and all the sacrifice, all the being diligent and being patient, paying off, so to speak. The Ultimate Fighter this summer on ESPN against Conor McGregor, and then fighting Conor later on this year at some point. It's really a dream come true. But in order to stay present, just keeping the main thing. Yeah. I've always just trained hard, done the right thing. You just got to be brilliant with the basics and not put too much pressure on it, even though it's the biggest fight that you could ever ask for. This one fight will be bigger than my last 10 fights combined, right? So just being right where my feet are and enjoying the process.
Love that. And if we could go back in time, where did it all start for you? Like, what's the beginning, the first 10, 15 years of the journey look like?
So I was a small guy from a small town. So because I was small, I had to wrestle. I wasn't going to be your starting point guard. I wasn't going to be your starting center, right? So I had to wrestle, really, because of my size.
Was wrestling prominent where you were from too?
Not really.
Okay.
We were a decent team, if you will. But then I was the first guy who really dedicated my whole life to it, and I was wrestling 365 days a year. I was the first guy that started doing that in my community.
But why? That's my first question.
I don't know.
If no one ever did that, why?
Because I think anything worth doing is worth overdoing.
And you knew that from the beginning?
Yeah, I think when I said I wanted to wrestle, I was going to wrestle. And to me, there's only one way to do that. That's working more than anybody else. That's showing up early. That's doing the right thing. That's being diligent.
Did anyone teach you that?
My mom and dad.
Okay.
My mom and dad. And that's why I would say, that's why it's so important to me to be a good father and a good father figure, and my wife as well. Because I do think I'm just a byproduct of the subconscious deposits in my emotional, spiritual bank that my parents gave me.
Nuggets right now.
It's true. Whoa. Mike and Betty Chandler are the reason I'm here today. Yeah. I'm now 37 years old, but the way I walk, the way I talk, the way I do business, the way I train, the way I do all that was downloaded into me for better or worse. There's certain things that I got to get over from my childhood, right? But for the most part, by and large, I'm just a product of their parenting. And that's amazing. My dad never woke up past 5 a.m., always put his work boots on every single morning. My mom worked 2 and 3 jobs. My dad worked 2 and 3 jobs to make sure we were where we needed to be. So
blue collar.
That's why. That was the only way that I was taught. So
and did you excel mightily in high school into college? Did you get a scholarship?
So it's a great question, because actually my all-encompassing kind of theme is I was a walk-on at the University of Missouri. Wow. So I wanted to be a state champion in high school, didn't work out, ended up taking second. I had a couple offers from Division III, Division II NAIA schools, but something in me said, you need to go to Mizzou, you need to wrestle Division I, even though everybody around me said, why are you going to do that? That sounds like a horrible idea. You're probably going to ride the bench, probably never going to get to put on the actual singlet. You're going to come back a year or two later with your hat in your hand, and we're all going to be able to say, I told you so. So I walked on to the University of Missouri, ended up becoming a couple-time team captain.
How quick in that first year did you realize you can get a scholarship? For anyone that walks on.
Man.
Because people do that.
Yeah.
So how quick?
I was able to get a small scholarship after my going into my third year.
So you did 2 years fully paid, like on your own?
Yes, 100%. Wow. My parents did. My parents paid for it.
But there was no scholarship.
100%, yes.
You stayed the course, though.
Yeah, I stayed the course, and I think, now that I look back on it, I think coaches, and you know this probably as well, you look at effort just as much as you look at talent.
100%.
Because the effort, that 18-year-old who's got the effort is going to be your guy who's going to be the leader on your team. Maybe he's not going to be the highest scorer, but he's going to influence those around him and bring their game up. So I think I was that guy. And then the skills started accruing, the mindset started accruing, and then I became an All-American, and it all worked out for me.
As a senior,
I took 5th in the nation. So
were you a surprise All-American? Did you sneak up on the world at that point?
I think I snuck up about my junior year. Okay. So I was definitely, 50-50 my freshman year, 50-50 my sophomore year. Junior year, I was kind of 70-30, ranked in the top 15, 20. And then my senior year, I was ranked top 5 in the country.
So I always focus on distinctions, right? So Eskimos have 12 different definitions of snow. Someone in LA may have one definition. So when you look at the top 5 of anything, from 5 to 1, there's major distinctions between 1 and 5, but it's usually a game of inches.
Yep.
Can you talk about the mindset? Obviously, you worked hard every day, no question, but the mindset behind the work, the hard work that has to put you over the top in anything you do.
Well, I can tell you this. I think it was a huge blessing that I underperformed and self-sabotaged so much in college.
Self-sabotage. Love it.
Because the moment, for anybody who doesn't know wrestling, we wear a singlet, it's got shoulder straps. The moment I took those shoulder straps off the last time, immediately all this pressure came off, and all I felt was regret and guilt, because I knew that I underperformed so badly because I did all the hard work. I was the hardest worker in the room, coach's favorite guy, still to this day, one of his favorite wrestlers, because I worked so hard. I did every single thing right. But mentally, between my ears, I didn't truly believe that I deserved to be on that podium. I would sit here and tell you I want to be a national champion, but I didn't truly believe it. I would tell Coach I want to be a national champion, but I didn't truly believe it. So the fact that I underperformed in college helped me make a decision and a promise to myself that I was never going to do that again. And I realized it was so much more about the mindset.
Oh my God.
Because I did every single thing right. And I can say that without even batting an eyelash. I did every single thing right, but I just didn't truly believe it. And I was a late bloomer in the mindset game. And now where I sit today, still not bulletproof where I would like to be, but so much more equipped mentally.
You can see the people around you, they don't have that same kind of mindset.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And in those big fights and those hard fights and those big opportunities, it's the mindset that really carries you to it.
You just said some really powerful things. As I started this AAU program 75 days ago, just for my 2 kids, it's turned into a business now, but it brought me back to I want to create a financial, watch this, literacy course for high school kids. But everyone wants to do that. So I want to create one with influence and integrity, but everyone wants to do that. I want to create one with both of those, but also show them how to brand and market themselves. Okay, that's catching a little bit of a different flavor. But you just said something that I realized about a month ago as I was creating this. I got sober in 1996. I haven't had a drink since 1996. In 2008, 9, 10, I made 7 figures.
Wow.
I felt like I didn't deserve it. I self-sabotaged 11, 12, 13. Being late for a meeting, not recruiting anymore, did all the things, didn't drink, but did all the things that told me that I wasn't worth it, right? So when I was thinking about this course, I realized that we could teach kids how to make money, but if we don't teach them to deal with their wealth wounds, handed down, as we talked about, downloaded stuff, then they're going to repeat it no matter if they're in the MBA or if they're a really good business owner.
Yep.
Because that's what I went through. So that's why I introduced you to Teddy before, because Teddy is someone that I brought in to be able to kind of bring that part of the whole course, whether it's influence, like David Meltzer, whether it's Teddy, mental health. The point is, it's not just about the course, it's about dealing with all these mindset things that we're talking about. So you are like hitting every single mark right now, because sharing that information is powerful, and thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Well,
I really appreciate that.
It's taken a really long time and I think it takes a lot of self-awareness too, to realize that we all have wounds. We all have wounds, and maybe they don't manifest themselves every day. Maybe it's the way you walk into a room, how you feel when you get that nice big paycheck that you never thought you would get, or like you said, just the self-sabotage. And I've gone through it. Still to this day, I mean, even thinking about how big this fight is going to be, there's a part of me that says I don't deserve it. There's a part of me that says, well, why don't you figure out a way to screw this up? You know? And if you aren't self-aware enough to realize that is inside of you and you got to deal with it, and maybe we talk about slaying these different dragons, these different wounds that we have, or these things that we got to get over. Some dragons you slay, and some you just get really good at pushing into a corner, you know, really good at dodging. I talk about, I'm a little guy from a little town who was taught to do little things, and that little guy is inside of me still. I've just gotten really good at duct taping him to the basement of my mind.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
he's still there, and quite frankly,
He shows up in the strangest moments.
Yes, and I was really mad at him for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then I started to love him because until I grabbed him and gave him a nice big hug and said, you know what?
Accepted him.
Yeah, I'm okay with you because I tried to kill you and slay you and get you out of my life, but you are the reason I am where I'm at in so many different ways. So I think that just the self-awareness and realizing that we got to keep on growing.
Amazing, man. So as you're stepping into the biggest fight in the last 10 fights, what is is there psychological warfare yet? And are you ready for it when it does happen?
Man, I mean, when you talk about fighting Conor McGregor, he is the greatest trash talker that we may ever see in the entire world.
Ali level. Right?
Ali level, right? You know, so I'd be lying if I'd say I wouldn't, you know, it's daunting. But
has he started talking or?
Well, so we did the Ultimate Fighter. You know, we were there for 5 weeks. It'd be 12 full episodes on ESPN. There's already been a little chirping on these little trailers where I'm like, got me on that one. And maybe they cut it a little bit to make sure it really looks like he got me.
Yeah.
But so I can already see where it's, you know, going to go. And man, ultimately, I just hold my hands open and say, hey, come what may. Yeah. We're going to deal with it. We're going to respond. We're not going to react. We're going to enjoy the process. Because even the other night, this promo came out where he kind of said something, and they cut it to where I basically didn't say anything back, so it looked like he punked me.
Yeah.
And I was laying in bed with my wife, and she's like, "Oh my God, doesn't that make you mad?" Like, and I'm like, sweetie, first of all, that was funny.
Yeah.
It was very funny, and second of all, it drives the intrigue. It drives the attention because it's going to be a battle of wits, a battle of linguistic jiu-jitsu, and a battle of my fighters versus his fighters. So
that's during the show. It's before you guys even fight.
Yeah, before we fight. So it's going to be the build-up for the fight, and then getting ready to step into the biggest battleground you could have ever asked for, which is fighting Conor.
Right now, would he just start talking nonsense? I
don't think so, actually.
Okay.
I think there's a mutual respect between he and I. I think we both respect each other. So there's a little bit here and there. He's definitely good at it. He picks and chooses his spots wisely. So I got to keep on stepping my game up.
So for the next, is this like what you're doing this summer? Is this part of your entrepreneurial run? Is this part of like some of the stuff that you want to kind of launch after you retire? And I don't know when you're retiring, but at some point when you do, like, what does that world look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always had that thought in my mind. I think I can chew bubble gum and walk at the same time when it comes to mixed martial arts. I've always been entrepreneurial, at least making the right relationship capital with the right people to say, hey, someday we're going to do something together. I mean, me and Dave have been talking about how we have going to be doing business together for the last 10 years, and now we're finally going to be really making money together and doing business together.
How did you meet Dave, by the way?
Man, someone just asked me that. I actually don't remember how we met, but we've hung out so many times. We talk all the time. So I think for me, it's just been knowing that this does end, this athlete journey ends, and then you can parlay it into whatever you want, and then just trying to find what really fuels me. What am I really passionate about? Yeah. I know it's going to involve people. I know it's going to involve bringing value. I know it's going to involve, probably being active in a lot of ways or speaking.
You should definitely be on speaking tours. So, no doubt about it.
It's enjoyable because I think there's a lot of options out there because I've kept a really good reputation for as long as I possibly can, and that's what you try to do, So
if we're to look 5-10 years out, right, where do you see yourself, and what kind of impact do you have at that point?
Man, I think I'm just doing good business with good people. Yeah. I realize that just like I've been the guy who steps inside the octagon, there's only one guy in there on my team, and it's me. And I'm fighting the one guy in there by himself, right? But it was the team around him. Yeah. It was the relationships. It was the partnerships. It was the contracts, the social contracts, the commitments that we made. I thought, well, hey, I'm going to be the CEO, and I'm going to run this, and I'm going to start this, and I'm going to be a solopreneur. And then I've had those thoughts, and I don't think that's how I want to do it at all. I want to do good business with good people. I want to say, hey,
a good team.
You know more than I do. Let's do something. Let's do this together. Let's make an impact together. So grabbing the right people, doing good business with the right people, spending time with the right people, and ultimately making a huge impact. And casting the widest net, and keep on enjoying this journey because it's gotten to a point where I never thought it would be, so I guess we're just going to keep on enjoying it.
And so that's a great point because you have this big event happening. When did you realize before you signed the fight, but when did you realize that, you know, in your career, all that hard work was starting to pay off?
You know, I think I was outside of the UFC, which the UFC is the biggest mixed martial arts platform. I was outside the UFC for a very long time, and I do think I came into the UFC at the exact right time. It could not have been scripted any better. There's a lot of people out there who would say, you spent a lot of time outside the UFC, I wish you would have been here earlier. And I would say, I don't think so. I wouldn't have been ready for it.
Yep.
And I even told Dana White that on our phone call whenever he was basically signing me and we were going to get a deal done. I said, hey, Dana, 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't think I would have been the guy that you need, the superstar that you needed me to be to come into your organization to become who I need to become for you and for me. So I think it worked out at the exact right time. So I was just very patient fighting outside of the UFC, building my brand, building my bank account, making good business decisions to where I could make the decision to come over to the UFC, and if I crashed and burned and went 0-2 and I got cut, I'd be able to lay my head on the pillow at night knowing that I gave myself the opportunity, again, just like the 18-year-old Michael did when I was a walk-on at the University of Missouri. So it worked when I was 18, and it worked when I was 34 or whatever it was I moved onto the UFC.
Listen, thank you so much for sharing your story, brother. I really appreciate it. And for the folks that are checking this out, make sure you tune in November, to be announced. Also watch in the summer. You know, the show in the summer. What's the name of the show? In the summer.
So it's called The Ultimate Fighter. 12 episodes every Tuesday night starting May 30th to August 15th.
Let's go.
There is no fight date yet, but I'm guessing sometime in the fall-ish.
Get to Vegas.
Yeah.
Everyone should be in Vegas for that fight. You got to tap into the bank account, cash in your 401k, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly.
But go ahead and click the link below if you have any questions. Ask questions. If you want to talk to one of the team members about the fight, we'd love to be able to sit down and talk to you. And Michael, my man, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Super grateful for your time, your energy, and what you shared for the audience.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.